Yes, guys, what's going on? Welcome to United Daily Live. I am AdamMcKola. This is AMTV, of course, the place where you can get your latest Manchester United news, headlines, transfer rumours, and everything else in between. A little bit of on this day as well. And today we are talking Sergio Reguilon, Alex Telles, Jadon Sancho, and plenty of other players linked with transfers in and out of Manchester United as it edges closer to the start of the Premier League, which is next weekend for Manchester United, the 19th of September, and of course closer to that transfer deadline of the 5th of October. We've only made one signing so far this transfer window in Donny van der Beek, and of course he played in his first game over the weekend for Manchester United at Villa Park in a pre-season friendly, our only pre-season friendly in what is a very, very weird pre-season. United lost the game 1-0. We played some good football at times in what was mainly a second string Manchester United 11, but Manchester United didn't take their chances, and as a result it was Ollie Watkins' goal who was the difference on the day. But it's not about that, it's about fitness, and a lot more players will be returning to Manchester United and Carrington on Monday, which is great news ahead of that 19th of September start. So of course we've got loads to discuss today. We've got a few of Ollie's comments on Donny van der Beek as well. And did anybody see that absolute madness in Le Classique today between PSG and Marseille? What a game that was. And I'm sure there's going to be loads more fallout from that game as well. But make sure you're keeping it locked, liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing as well. We're trying to hit 100k. You can help me do that by hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's the 13th of September today. So let's look at the on this day from the 13th of September, and we have to go back to Friday the 13th of September 1968. So obviously the year when Manchester United won the European Cup, and Frank Barson, a Manchester United captain in the 1920s, unfortunately passes away on this day in 1968. A colourful character who is rated the hardest man to have played the game. He is understood to have been sent off a dozen times, a blacksmith by trade with a busted nose. He switches to United after helping Aston Villa win the 1920 FA Cup with the final ref, Jack Howcroft, apparently warning him, "The first wrong move you make, Barson, off you go." Reg chairman John Henry Davis promises Barson a public house if he gets the club back into the first division, or a pub as they're commonly referred to. The centre-back achieves it in the 1925, but Barson only lasts a few minutes as the pub in Ardwick Green. He is dismayed and embarrassed by all the praise he receives at the opening and promptly hands over the keys to the head waiter and walks out. Legends include him receiving a good luck message before a game from two friends, brothers in condemned cells before they are hung for murder, and taking a gun along when negotiating a new deal with a manager. Another tale has hit that in one game, a player who had fouled and injured him in the first half was about to see red. Barson tried to persuade the official to let the player stay on so he could kick him in the second half. That is a great on this day from 1968, and obviously rest in peace to Frank Barson, who passed away on this day 52 years ago. But what a couple of great stories there. Taking a gun along when negotiating a new deal has to be a new one that I've never heard of. And in comparison to what Mason Greenwood's been making headlines for, it's absolutely... Mason Greenwood's done nothing compared to that, has he? But anyway, let's get stuck into this transfer news. As we're saying, Sergio Reguilon, Alex Telles, all being linked with Manchester United. And we hear the Sergio Reguilon move could be off for Manchester United, and the Alex Telles move, therefore, could be on. Now, thanks to Sport Witness for getting this story for us. Agent plans to use window of opportunity to secure transfer to Manchester United. So we're hearing reports here from Portugal, and the reports on Sergio Reguilon are also backed up in the Spanish press as well. So it's a little bit of a combination. And it says Sunday's edition of Bola, which is a Portuguese outlet, reports Pini Zahavi is trying to use a window of opportunity to secure Alex Telles a transfer to Manchester United. Bola explained the Premier League club's efforts for Sergio Reguilon have hit problems with the player not convinced he wants a permanent transfer without a buyback. If you remember, it seemed to be an issue in the deal where Manchester United were willing to give a little bit more cash in order to make sure Real Madrid didn't have that buyback clause in there. Now it seemed we could get over that hurdle, with Real Madrid because of the fact that they have Mendy and Marcelo in the position that Sergio Reguilon plays in. But now it seems the player doesn't want to give up on that move. He wants to have that buyback clause in any deal, or even get a loan move to another club. Now Sevilla have bought a fullback, so it looks like they've moved on from Sergio Reguilon, and you hear the news in Spain that he won't be playing for Sevilla next season. So who will he be playing for next season? It's not going to be Real Madrid. They look like they want to cash in on him. Now, is there going to be any club that would be happy to have that buyback clause in there? I'm sure there would be a few clubs, but of the size of Manchester United, probably not. And you can understand why United wouldn't want to have that in any deal. And if the player doesn't want to let go of that as well, then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not going to sign him. We've seen how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer works, how he functions. He wants players that want to be at Manchester United, and the pinnacle for them is Manchester United. If Sergio Reguilon's always got in the back of his mind that he wants to move to Real Madrid in 2-3 seasons, then I'm sure Manchester United wouldn't be looking at making that deal happen. Now, we also hear the idea of signing Telles from FC Porto is gaining strength according to this report. And Pini Zahavi would be looking to take advantage of the situation. Pini Zahavi, for you guys that don't know, is obviously a well-known football agent. Such a scenario makes sense. If you were the agent of a left-back seeking a transfer this summer, then going after a club who wants a player in that position is natural. Ebola state Manchester United don't want to spend more than 20 million euros or around 18 million pounds on Telles, given his age. He turns 28 in December, and that his contract expires in less than a year. So his contract expires next June, July. You know, he's 28 years old in December. United don't want to spend that much money on him. Now, according to this report as well, Porto have dropped their asking price to around 20 million euros, and Pini Zahavi is expected to present an offer at that figure in the next days. So, what is clear from this article is Pini Zahavi is shopping around his client, Alex Telles. Now, it could be the Portuguese press using the Sergio Reguilon story and that news that United have hit a wall with Sergio Reguilon because of that buyback clause, and then using that as something else to further Alex Telles potentially going to Manchester United. It could just be a rumour. We heard a week or so ago that his agents were flying into the UK in order to meet with clubs, to meet with Manchester United, to meet with Everton. And then all those talks went quiet again. So we're now hearing Pini Zahavi shopping his client around. He's looking for clubs. That price has been dropped to 20 million euros. And it looks like something that the agent is taking control of in terms of finding his player that move. Now, are they just using Manchester United's name in order to get more offers in for him? Maybe, but it would make sense as well. Alex Telles is very highly rated, gets goals, gets assists. He provides that attacking threat going forward. He's well experienced. You're signing him just as he approaches his peak years. United have got a lot of younger fullbacks coming through. Kind of fits into a position that we want to strengthen in as well. So, all the, things line up, but you could just do 2 and 2 and get 5 and you're wrong, you know what I mean? So let's wait and see how this one goes. But in terms of Sergio Reguilon, I think we have to seriously look at that as being off, I think, personally. Now, obviously, something could change for Sergio Reguilon. He could be really told by Real Madrid that, look, you don't have a future here. And if he hears that from the club, then maybe he would opt for a move, and where better to go than Manchester United. But if he insists on that buyback clause, if Real Madrid insists on that buyback clause, I can't see United accepting that. And for everyone that wants to say, how can United pass up a deal for 25 million euros, 30 million euros for Sergio Reguilon? Why would you want to get into a deal where the player is already got his next transfer lined up back to the club that you've bought him from? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Why would you invest that time in the player? That money, that effort? It doesn't make sense. And I don't think Ole would be on that at all. We've seen from the deals that he's done, some of the deals that we've pulled out of, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer ain't on signing any players that aren't seeing Manchester United as the pinnacle. They're just not doing it. So let's wait and see. It looks like this one's going to rumble on a little bit more. We're going to have to wait and see if we get any more further news on a fullback. And obviously, the main story that everyone's talking about is Jadon Sancho. And the Telegraph have had a few updates today. But these reports to me stink a little bit. I remember seeing similar reports around Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and everyone knows that that could maybe be clouded by the fact that I'm quite confident that Jadon Sancho will be a Manchester United player by October the 5th. By the time the transfer deadline closes, I think he will be a Manchester United player. But we hear from the Telegraph that the deal could be in doubt. We hear Manchester United are ready to walk away from a summer deal for Jadon Sancho and have targeted alternatives. They say Jadon Sancho will remain a Manchester United target beyond October the 5th if we don't sign him, but they would be prepared to walk away from a deal because their fears that finding a fee with Borussia Dortmund are unrealistic, and should they walk away, they would target Ivan Perisic, Gareth Bale or Douglas Costa as the profile of attacker that may be considered depending on availability. Now, that obviously says United would target a short-term option and go back in for Jadon Sancho next year. Couple problems. More teams will be in for Jadon Sancho next year. More teams will be willing to pay money for him. The price could go up if he has a very good season again this campaign. You're not guaranteed to do it. At the moment, it's a one-horse race. Now, to me, this stinks of what we've heard before from Manchester United when we've been approaching signing players. Maybe we're trying to get Jadon Sancho to force this deal a little bit more. And we have heard that you know, Jadon Sancho is going to need to push this a little bit if this deal is going to happen. But to me, I just think there's so little going on. There's so little actual noise in relation to this deal. Borussia Dortmund have stopped talking about it. Man United have stopped talking about it. Like, apart from that brief that we gave out the other day, last week I think it was, like, it's all gone proper quiet. Now that means nothing's happening, or I think it's the calm before the storm, and I think it could be. I think Jadon Sancho will be a Manchester United player. I really do. I think he'll be coming in before the end of the transfer window for sure. And who knows, maybe we could see him come in before the start of the season next week. But it's dragging on, innit? It's dragging on. And everyone's putting their two cents in. Everyone's getting another story out of it. And it is just dragging on. It is turning into a proper saga at this moment. But it continues to rumble on. And the latest reports are from the Telegraph that Manchester United are willing to walk away from any deal for Jadon Sancho. They'd target Douglas Costa, Perisic or Gareth Bale. What the hell is this? Is this like 5 years ago when we had Van Gaal, or a couple of years ago when we had Mourinho and we were linked with these players? We'd heard Gareth Bale linked to United when we did Gazetta United on Paddock earlier. And apparently you could get him in a loan deal, paying half of his wages. But he looks like a player that's lacking motivation. He's looking like a player that doesn't really care anymore. Now that could just be Spurs. Sorry, it's not Spurs. Real Madrid. And any player that, you know, any team that gets Gareth Bale will get a player that's motivated to prove Real Madrid wrong. And if you can get him with them paying half his wages, then, you know, you might be onto a good one. But I think it's a bit of a dangerous one as well, because half of his wages is around 300 grand a week. And what if you end up with a Gareth Bale on your books that isn't motivated, is injured, isn't playing? Like, we've seen what he's happy to do at Real Madrid already, and I just don't think that bodes well. So, me personally, I'd probably divert away from that one, but you can't take away from how much of a great player he is on his day. And in a loan deal, if United were struggling with Jadon Sancho deal, I could see why they maybe do it. And it seems like an Ed Woodward wet dream, doesn't it? Signing Gareth Bale. But I'm not too sure on that one personally. And I think it's an easy link to make because we've been linked with him so much in the past. It's an easy link to say, oh, Gareth Bale to Man United. I could see him going to Spurs before Manchester United. Spurs have actually come in to the frame in terms of Sergio Reguilon, according to latest reports. And maybe Spurs are one of those clubs that would be happy to insert a €40 million buyback clause, a €50 million buyback clause, and allow Real Madrid to buy him back in a couple of years. Maybe they would if they make a profit off it. they may be on that, but Manchester United aren't going to be on that at all. I just can't see that happening. Alien 10 says, I'd rather take a chance on Brooks than Bale. Red Rhubarb on the other hand says Bale on 50% wage would be bad. I thought he said would not be bad, but he did say. Anthony says wouldn't pay Bale more than 150k a week. Another Sanchez. Yeah, he does feel like another Sanchez, doesn't he? He does feel like that. But who knows? He's obviously a fantastic player. But I don't want him. I don't want him at all. Not a match. I think that ship sailed, and I think he's been just lounging around, been on the bench, been on a golf course for way too long, and not for United. Not for United. JC says Sancho looking unlikely and Bale as an alternative with crying emoji. I genuinely still feel as confident about Sancho signing as I did 3-4 weeks ago. I think it will happen in the end. There's just too much smoke without the fire. And maybe it could just be a case that it doesn't happen, but I've got a feeling it's going to happen eventually. Eventually it will happen. Any more news floating about at this moment? Let's get those quotes from... Actually, we'll have a look at that Thiago story as well, because Uli Hoeneß has been speaking, the former Bayern Munich president, still involved with Bayern Munich, and he said, we offered Thiago a great 4-year contract, but in the last minute he changed his mind and told us he wants a new challenge. He probably has an agreement with Liverpool or United or both. Both clubs did not come to us with an offer. They are bluffing and likely waiting until the last week of the window to make a cheap offer. Bayern must decide whether they want to play this game or stand their ground and keep Thiago. So maybe it looks like United, or I imagine it will be Liverpool, because I don't think we're going to sign Thiago Alcantara. Liverpool, who have obviously struggled to pay the fee for Timo Werner, struggled to pay the fee for Thiago Alcantara, which is 30 million euros so far. Maybe they are waiting for Thiago's willingness to make the move happen, and the fact that he's got 1 year left on his deal, the transfer window to be ticking down to maybe lowball Bayern Munich with a 20 million euro bid or a 25 million euro bid and try and get him in on the cheap, even cheaper, because 30 million euro I think is cheap for Thiago Alcantara, but it could be that Liverpool are aiming to do that. But Uli Hoeneß says he probably has an agreement with Liverpool, United or both. I'm not too confident on that one, and definitely nowhere near as confident as I am on the Jadon Sancho story. We heard Ollie talking about Donny van der Beek as well. Let me get these quotes up from Solskjaer. One sec. There it is. So he was speaking about Donny van der Beek, and he said Donny was maybe the biggest plus of the game in outfield. He's such a finder of space. He creates time for himself with his timing and his movement, and I was very happy with his performance. And I thought Donny van der Beek he didn't look out of this world yesterday, but he looked very clever with the positions that he was occupying on the pitch. We played a 4-2-3-1. He played in the 2. He was playing quite deep at times in the game, and then he was linking up the play and being able to get forward. Now, there were times when he was occupying space in between the defender and the midfield, or just in between the fullbacks and the centre halves, and people weren't finding him. And I think they'll learn gradually, what Donny van der Beek's about, what positions he likes to take up on the field. But his constant movement, his constant thinking, his constant spatial awareness looked really good. And he was playing that from deeper as well, which is always a good sign for us, because we know we're going to play that 4-2-3-1. We know he can play in a number 10 position just off the striker and look really good in that. But we know we've got Bruno who can play there. So for us, we want to see Donny van der Beek potentially do it a little bit deeper if he can too for United, so we can play him with Bruno, with Pogba in a 4-2-3-1. And I thought, although we didn't see great signs, I thought we saw some signs there from Donny that he would be able to do that in games where we're expected to have 55, 60, 65% of the possession. Donny looks good in that position. Ocean Man thinks the low is gone. He obviously played for Manchester United yesterday. It was a below par bit understrength team. It was a second 11 almost. Rashford played. He looked bright at times, but then at other times he clearly looked like he was lacking fitness, and that goes in hand with the fact that he was injured towards the end of last season. I thought Daniel James looked okay from the left when he was drilling balls across the box, but in terms of his short passing, it's not great. And it shows you why we need another winger in those positions. I think Danny James from the bench or against teams that play a high line is fantastic. But when teams are sitting deep, he hasn't got the ability or the short passing to be able to link up with players. And it brings frustration from some of them. Igalo looked a little bit frustrated yesterday. Again, it's hard to judge these guys because of their fitness. Jesse Lingard, again, looking like he was lacking that fitness, but he got himself into a few good opportunities, good positions at times. I thought Galbraith did all right when he come on. Teddy Mengi looked strong when he come on. Dean Henderson did okay with his distribution. But, you know, a lot of fitness is lacked there. And it'd be good to get some of these players that have been on international duty back into the mix as well, because some of those boys will be a little bit fitter, having played competitive football. And you heard Luke Shaw, who looked promising for United yesterday, speaking after the game and saying, you know, at the start of this week in training, we had 4 players there, 4 first team players in training. And that must be strange. That must be difficult. That means you can't work on shape. You can't work on this. You can't work on that. You know, Donny van der Beek was in training for, I think, 2 or 3 days before he played that game. So you've got to take into consideration it's a really strange pre-season. It's a really strange time for all concerned with football at the moment. And these fixtures are going to start coming thick and fast without a real pre-season now. So we've got to be ready for it. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the Palace game. I think once we get a few of those players back into the mix, Martial coming in, Bruno Fernandes coming in, those boys look fit for their Portugal and for France respectively, and they look good when they played. Marcus Rashford, get him going a little bit, and who knows what happens in the transfer window between now and then. Wouldn't be surprised if I seen Jadon Sancho rocking up in Manchester United's first 11 against Crystal Palace, but maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe it's wishful thinking. Deepta says Maguire needs to step up. He does indeed. Mbappe Real Madrid bound. I think that will happen eventually next summer. Thank you for tuning in, Monav. Appreciate it. Mengi and Galbraith look good. Shaw too, says Ocean Man. Yeah, it is fair. I think they did. Ted Mengi is an exciting prospect. I think the shirt looked a lot better as well with black shorts, black socks. Not that I'll be rushing out to buy it, but it was good to see on the team. Bruno back for the weekend. He's had time off after having. Oh yeah, he had a newborn, didn't he? I have seen pictures of him in training. I think on the same day that United were playing Villa. So that's good to see him back in the mix and back in Carrington, because I believe if you travel back from Portugal now, you have to quarantine. So he may have got back in time from Portugal in order that he didn't have to quarantine after that, which is good. Nice to see on the kickoff, mate. Yes, Neil, it was good to be on the kickoff as well. Enjoyed it. Hopefully be back on soon. Wan-Bissaka and Maguire need to step up this season. They did well last season and they improved our team and they improved our defence, which was clear in the stats. But I agree, they have to push on yet again. And those are the levels at Manchester United. You can't stay stagnant. You have to keep pushing on. You have to keep aiming to get better season on season in. And when you look at United, third isn't where we want to be. Do you know what I mean? We want to be first ultimately, and the players need to improve if that's where we're going to end up. So there's the job at hand. Let's see if they're up to it. It's a big season ahead. We've still got to back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the market. We've still got to do bits of business. But if we can do that, then I'm quietly confident it can be a good season for the Reds. But let's see what happens. Anyway, guys, those are the thoughts and the latest news on Sergio Reguilon, Alex Telles, Van der Beek's start to life at Man United, Thiago Alcantara's agreement with United or Liverpool, or is it both? Uli Hoeneß doesn't have a clue, surely. Bale touted as a Sancho alternative with Perisic and Costa. Let us know all your thoughts on those things in the comments below. Remember, we'll be back with United Daily Live tomorrow evening at 10:30 PM, and in the morning we will have the Premier League Gazette as well. Make sure you're keeping it locked. For now, I've been AdamMcKola. I'm out of here.